When Waylon Green first laid out the idea of this movie, it had, back in 1988, this idea of a lemur and a dinosaur together.
We absolutely broke a rule with the lemurs. They absolutely did not exist at the same period of time as our dinosaurs. We cheated by about 50 million years.
Well, the lemurs, we had 3 years to design them wrong, and then about, 4 weeks to design them right. The earlier models of the lemurs looked like guys in monkey suits. We naturally gave them human-like proportions because that's so much what we're used to looking at, something that wanders around on 2 legs for most of the time. And we realized we couldn't get lemur-like poses out of them. At the very last minute, we put lemur attributes: longer legs, shorter arms, longer torso, thinner hips. The final products, they looked a little more like a shafaka.
We were very fortunate because the LA Zoo has shafaka lemurs, which is what we basically use as our lemur model.
And we were able to go there and study the real shafaka lemurs there and take videotapes of them to study their motions and actions. And also I was able to sketch from the lemurs myself. To actually build the character, you'll go from a drawing stage, usually to a modeling stage where you'll have a sculptor actually sculpt the character. And then from there, you will work with the computer modelers, and they will make a wireframe sculpture that is imported into the computer, and the animators work with the wireframe sculpture. We would usually start off with body action. We basically have a model here that has controls to it, so it's easy for us to find our poses. This is different than traditional animation where you rough out a scene with a pencil very quickly. Here you have to actually manipulate the body parts, one body part at a time, to pose the puppet. And once that was pretty much completed, I would then transfer my animation into Maya Mugshot. What Mugshot does is deal with primarily the facial aspects of the characters, and each of the facial features have been separated into individual parts, and you can pick a variety of expressions and combine them together. Eventually the character will have muscles applied to it and fur attached to it after that.
One of our great digital accomplishments on Dinosaur is that our artists created a fur tool to put fur on our lemurs.
They're a little scary when you first get a hold of them. They look like this. They don't have any hair yet, cold and naked in the world. And we actually have to figure out how to put the fur on it. When we first grow the hair on the lemur, it looks like a pincushion. Once we've done some grooming to it, it looks like this. What you see here are actually key hairs. We've grown maybe every 100th hair. And they're actually representative of, 100 more. So that when you grab one of these hairs and move it around, it's going to affect everything in between, and it's going to interpolate. The way this is constructed is there's a series of patches that make up a model. The whole lemur would have maybe 540 patches, about 1.5 million hairs per lemur.
Our characters had to go through so many different variations: wet fur, dusty fur, messed up fur, pristine fur.
One of the interesting things that we had to do was to come up with a way of making the fur blow in the wind, because when digital fur sits there, it looks very, very dead, almost like cement, because it is so perfectly still. And if you look at real fur, there's always a little bit of something going on. Some of the longer hairs being affected by the wind a little more than the short stuff is, like on Suri's neck right here. You see there's not as much action going on. But in the longer fur of here and up there and Pleo's neck, you get a lot more blowing going on, a lot more action.
Big issue, for us earlier on is how do we get these characters to look wet?
The hair had to be clumping together into little points, because that's what hair does when it gets wet. It comes together almost as if it were magnetized to itself.
It was a time-consuming process, but once we actually achieved the look that we wanted, it was astonishing. Another big cheat for us was actually putting grass in the dinosaur world, because as any paleontologist will tell you, or probably any number of kids, grass didn't exist at the time. However, that cheat gave us a bit of work, because now all of a sudden we had to have scenes where our virtual dinosaurs existed in real worlds with grass.
We initially went out and shot red screen mats where the characters were going to be in the grass. So we could pull mats for the grass, lay the characters in, and lay the grass back on top, because we didn't really have a way of dealing with grass.
We actually shot real grass and we moved stuff around in it, but
It would look still or something like this. It would look like a golf course.
it's one of those cases of occasionally the real thing doesn't look good enough.
It was very difficult until somebody came upon the brilliant idea of taking our fur tool and taking that fur, basically spreading it over hillsides, painting it green, and calling it grass.
It allowed the character to interact with the grass, which never would have been able to happen before.
Because it was virtual, they recognized each other. So if a dinosaur put his foot down on the grass, it would actually, fall down as though it had contacted it. If he picked up his foot, it would slowly start to lift up again.
The grass that we created looked so good that all of the grass that you see in the valley, the real grass, we took out and replaced it with CG grass.
That you could take the same technology that made the fur, that same idea could be used for the grass in the valley at the end of the movie. That's a discovery. We had not planned it, we had not plotted it, but thank heavens we had it.
When you look at that, you don't think about all the work that's involved. You're not supposed to. But there was a lot of work involved.